But first, the midterm elections are not over yet. The final votes will be cast next Tuesday in a runoff to choose the next U.S. Senator from Mississippi. John Yang has more.
Judy, the race between Republican Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, who was appointed earlier this year to replace Thad Cochran, who resigned, and former Democratic Congressman Mike Espy has become a national story because of this social media video. Hyde-Smith spoke publicly about it for the first time last night in the candidates' only debate.
You know, for anyone that was offended by my comments, I certainly apologize. There was no ill will, no intent whatsoever in my statement. I also recognize that this comment was twisted and it was turned into a weapon to be used against me, a political weapon used for nothing but personal and political gain by my opponent. That's the type of politics Mississippians are sick and tired of.
Mr. Espy, Secretary Espy.
Well, no one twisted your comments because the comments were live. You know, it came out of your mouth. And I don't know what's in your heart, but we all know what came out of your mouth. And it went viral, you know, within the first 3 minutes around the world. And so it's caused our state harm. It's given our state another black eye that we don't need. It's just rejuvenated those stereotypes, you know, that we don't need anymore.
For more on this final Senate election of 2018, we're joined by Sarah McCammon of NPR, who is just back from Mississippi. Sarah, thanks for joining us. The original comment from Senator Hyde-Smith and what she said in the debate last night, how is this playing with voters in Mississippi?
Well, I spent a couple of days talking to both Republicans and Democrats, and I will say I heard a lot of concern across the board, although from Democrats it was not surprisingly much more intense concern. But even some of the Republicans I talked to acknowledged that these were unfortunate comments, that she shouldn't have said it the way she did, at least. Although several people said they didn't think she meant it in a racially offensive way, but that it was nonetheless taken that way, given the history in Mississippi of horrific history of lynchings and racial violence. The NAACP says Mississippi had the most lynchings of any state from roughly the late 1800s to the Civil Rights era.
And this is not the only controversy that's surrounding Senator Hyde-Smith right now, is it?
Right. She's had a few incidents, remarks. She was also caught on tape recently suggesting that maybe we should make it harder for liberals to vote. And she said, her campaign said that was sort of taken out of context and was just a joke. But it's the kind of thing that, again, in a state like Mississippi with a history of voter suppression of African Americans, a lot of people hear with concern. Also, in recent days, a Facebook post from a few years ago surfaced in which she could be seen wearing a Confederate hat and carrying a rifle, and the caption said something like Mississippi history at its best. So given the racial undertones there, and again, the historical context, a lot of concern, particularly from Democratic voters and from black voters that I talked to.
Mike Espy, the Democratic candidate, has some history, too. He was President Clinton's Agriculture Secretary. That tenure was ended by corruption charges for which he was acquitted. There's also been some discussion about his lobbying history. Has that become an issue in the race?
It has. Senator Hyde-Smith's campaign has very much tried to make it an issue, sent out press releases about it. It came up during the debate last night. It's something that Espy has responded to repeatedly and has reiterated that he was exonerated. But we've seen both candidates really trying to sort of question the character and integrity of the other.
Mississippi is a deep red state. President Trump won it by 16 points. Roger Wicker, the other Republican senator, won it this month by 20 points. President Trump's going back in to campaign for Senator Hyde-Smith Monday. Are the Republicans worried about this race?
Well, I think they are. I mean, we see them sending the president, as you say, making 2 stops in Mississippi on Monday. This is a deep red state. A Democrat has not won a Senate seat in Mississippi since 1982. So things are in Republicans' favor, but this is, an unusual election. It's a runoff right after the holidays, right after the Thanksgiving holiday. The kind of election that really only motivated voters to come out and vote in. And so both parties really want to drive out their base. And I think there is concern among Republicans that these remarks by Senator Hyde-Smith might, turn out the Democratic base to vote for Mike Espy. And that certainly is the hope of Democratic activists.
And we'll find out how it turns out next week. Sarah McCammon of NPR, thanks so much.
Thank you.